So since the start of this year, I've made it my mission to learn about AI, learn how to use it, and see how I can incorporate it into my scenes, into my cinematics, and how it can make my kind of Unreal Engine journey more enjoyable, more fun, and more iterative. So when Rodin reached out to me to sponsor this video and use the brand new Rodin Gen 2 tool, I was pretty excited. And the first thing that I really wanted to do was sit down and play around with a bunch of different assets to create a world. So I created this, and every single static mesh you see in this scene right now is entirely AI. I used absolutely nothing but AI except for the materials on the walls and ground, nothing else. So I want to jump in and show you guys how you can use Gen 2, how you can play around with it to iterate on your models, and how I created this scene. Now, if you're interested in using Rodin Gen 2 for yourself, below you can find an affiliate link that will help support the channel and all the work I do. So please use that if you do want to check it out. And on top of that, I also have a code below that will offer you a free 14-day trial. So check it out. Okay, so diving in here is the quick creation of our scene. So the initial idea is pretty simple. It's an office room. So all I really need was 4 walls and an initial lighting setup. The first thing I did was I actually brought in environment light just so I can kind of see everything, and then brought in some planes to align my 4 walls to get an idea of kind of our setting. And then the only other piece to this is I did bring in the mannequin always, so we have a size reference to make sure that everything I am bringing in is towards its accurate size, including the walls, just so we have a full and easy scene setup to begin working with. And once I was done, and we had a kind of initial setup for our scene, it was time to jump into Rodin to play around with some 3D modeling. Okay, so this is Hyper 3D's Rodin. And right off the bat, you're going to notice in the middle here, you have kind of 2 options. It's text to 3D or image to 3D. Now, when talking to Rodin, they suggested that I use images with multiple angles of the same object to get the best results. However, what I noticed was I can actually just use one plain image, and I did this for all assets within our scene, and you're getting some really awesome results. So at the start here, I decided to stick with the desk. And I open that up and just drop it and click generate right away. Now, once it's done generating, you're going to see this kind of pop-up occur, and it's going to show you a very plain layout of what your static mesh is looking like. Now, you have a few options here, which I'll dive in later, but if you're overall liking the way it's looking, you can confirm it and move on to the next stage, which is adding on materials. Now, once it's confirmed, this is what you're going to see. A fully laid out static mesh. And then the next option here is jumping into materials. Now, they have some options here that allow you to choose how close or how far from the material you want to be, so it can use it as a reference or not. And then from there, you can jump into generate to actually generate the overall material for your static mesh as well. And then once that's done, you have a fully realized static mesh with its material attached. Pretty freaking sick. And then now in the packing area, you have a bunch of different options. In my case, I'm using Unreal Engine, so .fpx is what I'm going to use. For the materials, I actually stick with shaded, and then you can choose between 2K and 4K. In this specific scenario, I picked 4K just to kind of test out the differences, and then package it up. Once you do so, you'll have a pop-up asking you where you want to kind of save it. Save it wherever you want, and then from there, you can jump into your scene. Now, the next thing we're going to jump into is the actual computer on the desk in our scene. So first thing I do is grab our image and bring it over into Rodin and click generate. Now, once it's done generating, again, you're going to see this very simple mesh kind of showing you the full geometry and layout of it. And right away, I really like how it initially comes out. But the main thing I'm noticing is the computer's really kind of front heavy, and it's not as round in the back as I'm hoping for, which is where Rodin's kind of new edit tool comes into play. So you go over to redo. When you click on it, you're going to see modify pop above it. You can click modify and you're going to get a box. Now you can adjust this box however you want. And what's going to happen is whatever in this box is what is going to be adjusted by the prompt that you give it. So in our case, I want the back end to be a little more round. So I am going to adjust the box to focus on the back end of our computer. And I'm just going to type in a small blurb here about how I want it to be more spherical. And then all I need to do from there is click generate and then wait for it to kind of generate the look and feel or change that I'm looking for. And just like that, now instead of having it more of a flat shape, it's just slightly rounded, which is exactly what I'm looking for. So now it has more of like that kind of OG Apple computer-esque look and roundness to it on that back end, which is a lot more accurate to the initial design that I was hoping it was going to kick out. And this is where Rodin's power really shines. It's allowing you to make nice iterative changes to your overall static meshes instead of having to restart each time and regenerate a full new static mesh, especially when 90% of your static mesh is exactly the way you want it, but the other 10% just needs a slight tweak to get it to the exact position and look and feel that you're hoping for. So now that I like where my computer is at, all I need to do is click generate and it will create a static mesh for me. And then like the last time, the same thing applies. I can now change my material, adjust the PBR temperature or the reference strength to exactly what you want. In my case, the PBR temperature can be around a 7, which is kind of the norm. And then the reference strength all the way up because I really like the way the initial images were generated and I want to stick as close to that as possible. And then from there, just click generate again. And then now that that's generated, again, for Unreal Engine, I'll go FBX, I'll keep my shaded in PBRs, go to 4K, and go for export. Now, the next one is kind of the exact same process. I'm going to bring in the lights, drag that as an image, and click generate. Now, this one comes out looking exactly how I wanted to right away. I would say when I was playing around with this on the first initial variations, one of the actual legs was shorter than the other, and the modify tool helped kind of fix that right away and make both even, which is another great way of kind of using the modify tool. If things are slightly uneven, you can even them out by adjusting and focusing on that one piece as well. But once that's done, I just click generate and kind of move through the material. And then once again, I pack that as an FBX, shaded, PBRs on for the material, and then 4K. Now, the last one is our chair, which I went through the exact same process, just dragged and dropped it. It's super easy. It generated the model exactly how I wanted to, created our materials, and then packed that similarly as the rest. Okay, so this next piece is pretty cool. Part of Rodin's Gen 2 update is the ability to actually take an FBX file and bring it into Rodin to edit within Rodin, which means you can now edit things that have already been made either using Rodin itself or by using Blender or any of your exports that you yourself have created, and you can adjust them in small kind of ways to get the overall look and feel you're going for. So just to test this out and kind of play around with it, I bring the chair that we have already created back into Rodin to test. And the process is pretty cool. So all you need to do is kind of drag and drop the FBX into Rodin and click upload, and it'll start uploading everything you need. And once it's done uploading, it's going to bring you to a screen very similar to the generate version when you're just generating kind of like a image to 3D mesh. And once you're in this area, you can do two main things. One is you can rematerialize, and two, you can also make the adjustments you want to make. So in our case, we have the legs here, and the legs look a little different. I would prefer them to be kind of completely flat to the ground and kind of play around with that modern design. So just like before, I take the box, I single out the legs, and I type in a prompt about how I want it to be kind of like 4 prongs and laying flat to the ground. Very simple, and click generate. And the cool thing here is it allows you to kind of visualize how it's going to come out before you actually create what you're trying to create, which allows you to kind of continually refine your prompt to make sure it's generating the look and feel you want it to look without spending the time to create a brand new 3D mesh each time, just a new image so you can get an idea of how your end result is going to look like. Now that I've found a look and feel that is accurate to what I want my chair to look like, all I need to do from there is just click confirm, and it will now generate that look based off the 3D mesh that I uploaded. Pretty sweet that you can just make changes to something that's already been made and edit it in any way you want. And then now that you've created the look and feel you want, you can go through the exact same process and generate a material. And for anyone who's curious as to how to get it to look like your original one, all you need to do is actually upload an image of your original one with its original materials. So just basically an image of the export of what it looked like with its materials on it. And you can bring it in, and Rodin will also do a pretty good job of kind of copying that look and feel and bringing it over to your brand new static mesh. And then from there, it's just like using the image to 3D mesh pipeline. You just add the material and package it and bring it into your 3D software. Also, it's worth noting that there are DCC bridges that you can use to kind of move your 3D meshes over to the program you're using, whether it's Blender, Unreal, Unity, and so on. Now, after all that, creating the scene was actually pretty simple. All I had to do is import the FBX via the content browser and attach the materials using the Unreal Engine material that was generated for the static mesh that you created using Rodin. From there, it was really just plug and play, dragging everything into our scene, setting up our initial scene, placing everything where we wanted to, and then kind of duplicating everything out. So we had it all spread out. And then from there, it was really just about setting up the lighting, which for the most part was super simple. There was just one top light over the top, kind of shining down. And the only atmosphere effect that I kept in the scene was actually some fog, just so it gave a little more kind of film grain-esque look, since whenever you watch any cinematic, someone's always doing kind of like spray fog into the light to kind of give it that shine, which is what I wanted, that volumetric shine to the light. And from there, all I had to do was export, and our scene was completed. Okay, so do I think AI is going to solve every 3D problem today? Probably not. I think the high precision consistency and small details are still the frontier of where this could be going, and places where AI could make some real change and improvement. However, Rodin is the first tool I've used specifically for 3D meshes that feels like it's made for people who actually create things. So if you want to stop gambling and start directing, head over to Hyper3D's website. It's linked below. You can use my affiliate link. And I also have a code below as well that will give you a free 14-day trial to check it out. I think you're going to like it a lot. As always, thank you guys so much for the support and checking this video out, and I'll see you on the next one.